Welcome back to Stuff or Whatever podcast. Your host, BQuanchi here. Before we get started, I always like to say the best way to support me and the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe, which you can do on YouTube, X, which is really Twitter. We all know it's Twitter, and Twitch for gaming streams and all that, which also get uploaded to YouTube channel. If you get any feedback, suggestions, especially games to play, um, yeah, so we have a very special podcast this week. Also wanted to start with a little update on the channel said before in I think last week is that for August I had some backlog of my Let's Play stuff, my BQuanchi gameplay. So I was having two uploads a week, but it's not going to be back to one upload and then two stream VODs, which I've been pretty consistent with. I get time to record more, so I didn't really notice too much in terms of channel growth or anything like that, or views. Yeah, but then again, it could just be what I'm playing and what I'm throwing out there. Just throwing spaghetti at the walls. But I'm always open to doing more. But it's at the same time, it's more of an audience and more of a demand, I guess, which is little me, a YouTube channel. But a lot of it's just me having fun too. Because I did play. I'm planning on streaming it again. Well, actually streaming it, but I did play Checkmate Showdown, the beta version, and they have a trial this weekend. So I was almost going to stream the beta, but I decided I'll just wait for the trial to launch, and then stream that just to see with all the updates. And also with streams, I know it's not too far off, but for October, want to do some Halloween streams, at least kind of like some horror games. Not really horror games. I'm actually a little bitch when it comes to that. Like Five Nights at Freddy's, like gives me too much anxiety. As lame as sounds, saying that loud. But like more like themes and stuff like that. Uh, I might do it for every stream. I do two streams a week, so I always got some ideas and stuff planned out, but nothing like too scary. Just kind of as that plays on Halloween theme, especially with like zombies. I think that's going to be like a heavy um, theme for my streams in October. I'm also going to do a few more shorts. I had like a moment where I was putting out more consistent shorts of games I streamed before. Do like a quick review for the most part, or some old commentary videos, which I think in the habit of doing more. Um, just because I have like literally I have like say Google Docs with titles and even some thumbnails like mock-ups. So just like stuff I want to talk about, which I'm a little lazy with, but we'll see. But some shorts I plan on making is from the Halloween games I played last year. Just a few. Um, and maybe if I get play a little bit more indie games, I'm trying to like balance of what games are going to be more of a series versus what games are going to be one-offs for stream, especially the smaller titles and all that. I'm not sure if I should talk about games I played demos of too. That'd be interesting. I might do that, like a first impressions. Well, I might actually do that, like do demo impressions, just so I have idea of shorts. Just because I feel like a lot of people say like do shorts. That's good in terms of like content creating and stuff like that. Just because I think YouTube just kind of feeds them out, so they get a little bit more attention. But it just kind of depends. It's really hard to gauge on my end, like what works, what doesn't work and all that. But basically, there's going to be a little less streams, in uploads on the channel, which I could do more. But I don't know if I ever get in the mood of playing a lot of games and record them and do more Let's Play style uploads, I might change my mind. We'll see. It was just like a little experiment that wasn't really anything, but it cleared out some backlog that was because like part of it's too like especially with like games that like oh that demo just came out. I want to put that on a channel. Even with it, one of those cases with demos, they don't make good streams in a sense unless I have a lot of them planned back to back and have like change games. So I feel like doing kind of like a let's play recording is a little bit better in my opinion. But I might do that. I might do demo impressions or uh, all that for some of the games I played. I think that's actually a good idea. Just to kind of like be on the lookout and stuff. Next thing I want to talk about, food related. I've seen them before from Lay's, but this on sale. It's like I got a couple bags, but it's like Lay's, but the flavored like other chips. But it's all like from Frito-Lay brands and nothing too crazy. But it's like chips that taste like other chips. And the ones I try, they have Cheetos and Doritos Cool Ranch. I've seen the Funyun ones before, but I haven't tried. And there's one with Ruffles. They call them All Dressed, which I wasn't quite sure what that's about, but it looks, looking at it, it's like tangy and savory and sweet. So I kind of like maybe a blend. But I tried the Cheetos and the Dorito ones, and they're actually pretty good. Like sometimes you think, okay, that's a weird combination, just because like no Cool Ranch is Doritos, it's tortilla chips. No, it's that. Or Cheetos are the cheese puffs, but they're really good. But Cheeto ones, like I know Lay's has a bunch of cheese flavors for the potato chips, including like jalapeno cheddar or sour cream and cheddar. I think they have a plain cheese flavor too, but I feel like the Cheetos one is the best cheese flavored for at least the potato chips of Lay's. It is at a limited times. I'm not sure how limited that's going to be. Although sometimes I like a little zest or a little spice, or sometimes I like the jalapeno ones with cheese or the sour cream and cheddar. But the Cheeto one's actually really good, and the Dorito one's good too. It's what you expect, but then it's kind of like messes with your brain because I'm so used to having that flavor with a harder tortilla chip versus more lighter of a potato chips that Lay's tend to be. So it's like my little food review. I kind of wish I had a better. Might be me have to like do a webcam or something like that. Not necessarily for streaming, just because I don't like my setup as much. But we'll see because I did a TikTok. Oh yeah, it was a YouTube short too, trying the Eggo's brunch in a jar. It's like a sipping cream. It's kind of like Kahlua or rum chata, but I did that on the channel and I filmed on my phone, but I didn't like the audio capture on my phone, so I had to record it on my computer for audio. Just because the camera on my laptop is okay, but it looks weird when like having the big blow up screen and all that. So I don't know, maybe I didn't give it too much of a chance, but also the formatting too in terms of making it work for shorts. But uh, yeah, it's one of those things I kind of play around with. So next thing I want to talk about on the podcast is it's kind of like old news, like less than a week, but still kind of old. But the whole deal with like comments Jacksepticeye made about Mr. Beast. Like I don't know the full context. I don't really follow the guy. I don't even follow really any channel, so I'm not really on any on the side of it. I guess it was like a lie detector test, and it asked like if he likes Mr. Beast, and that Jacksepticeye I said no, and that Mr. Beast is ruining YouTube. He was saying stuff that like he made it all about views, money, and popularity. And I'm like, that's pretty much been YouTube ever since they came out with the partner program. Like that's always been a thing. And then part of me that kind of rubs me the wrong way about it is that it's like the pot calling the kettle black is that with Jacksepticeye, like I don't follow his stuff. I know like did a lot of Minecraft videos and all that, and then a lot of like Five Nights at Freddy's or a lot of those mascot horror games. So you playing popular stuff that's getting views. Like YouTube's gonna be all about Minecraft now or in this moment, so you're adding to it by doing Minecraft, or it's all about jump scare games and Five Nights at Freddy's, and then you're feeding into that too. So it's like or sometimes it has trends, but also I feel just because I had my YouTube account for so long, uh, I think just it kind of like for the most part stays tailored to me. Like sometimes I get suggestions depending on what I view, or what I search, but I like never get suggested videos for um I said almost for like Mr. Beast or Jacksepticeye or Markiplier, stuff like that. Kind of the really big ones that kind of similar to what I view in terms of like gaming and stuff like that. And like this is like something really big and viral, but I feel like unless I'm like signed out or open up a new incognito window, I don't see really much annoying stuff on YouTube. And I think with that, I know Mr. Beast like tweeted something like how that was disrespectful and stuff, and seems like they squashed it. So it's kind of like whatever YouTube drama. that's kind of like got squashed with in less than a day, within a few hours. But yeah, I feel that it's just kind of weird coming from a big YouTuber who like produces a lot of. I'm not sure how much she's producing now in terms of like daily or twice a day. I don't know what some of these YouTubers are doing, but it's like, you're doing like the same shit. Like, I think maybe part of his point is that a lot of Mr. Beast's videos are a big spectacle and a little bit more. I don't know, almost like the theatrics and the bells and whistles and stuff like that. I'm kind of like a lost at best words besides saying he makes it kind of more of a spectacle, like a big event when he uploads a video. And you hear those like headlines that, oh, this Mr. Beast video broke the record for most views within so many 24, 48 hours or whatever. That's not a music video and stuff like that. And they get really big and elaborate. And I think a lot of good things, like even like I said, I don't really pay attention to Mr. Beast or watch his content. But I've seen headlines and some of the bigger videos he's done, like helping people with blindness and like broad discussions about this procedure that can be done that should be more known, more available. And also one with the hearing, like helping restore people's hearing. I think he got well. I think he was always going to get flack, like, "Oh, that's weird." Is like a Jesus complex or something like that, that he's healing the disabled or whatever. And I think good for them. Like a lot of them, he's like giving them like money and stuff too. Like I don't really watch it, so I don't know all the details. But it's like not just like, Vision's better, but like actually helping them out in so many different ways. But like the hearing one, like some people say, like, hey, it's kind of a more bigger deal with someone hearing again or hearing for the first time, and that can be really big adjustment. And there's some other things to take into consideration. And I don't know too much about it, but I just heard some things. But yeah, I just kind of like there's a lot of worse people ruining the YouTube platform. Just like look at Spark, stuff like that. Like when the actual official YouTube account like highlights her as a creator, quote unquote, and talk about like how I don't know if they say like how original, but like, oh, where do you get your ideas? Like she's like such a talented creator, and she just like sits there watching TikToks, like my nephew who is still in middle school. So yeah, so I just think it's kind of funny that you talk about YouTubers and like what's ruining the platform, what's not. And I think in different areas, like whether you like a Let's Player or was it, I think ranked channels are kind of like the ones that kind of ruin things too. That's kind of cringe, but like beauty gurus or makeup or cooking and stuff like that, like some people actually do get more success in terms of like TV shows and other opportunities. I think it's been a good while since I heard of a YouTuber doing stuff like maybe a Netflix special or a series, but then the last time I heard of that was Miranda Sings, and that didn't end too well. But yeah, it's kind of funny hearing all this and that. The next thing I want to talk about is pronouns, and this is kind of more related. Well, I say kind of, but it is about the recent game that came out from Bethesda, the Starfield. And that trending clip, only like two people I've been hearing making a fuss about it more so. Maybe there's like a lot of dumb people on the internet and dumb people on Twitter, X, whatever. But it's like some guy, he's like shaved head or bald head or whatever. He just looks like a giant mutant thumb. And a lot of times, like I'm not sure if this is a bad habit or just like a habit to keep me sane when on X, is that a lot of times I don't listen to videos. I think for the most part, it's on my phone, and you have to like click unmute or turn up my volume for media. No, that so it's more like it is hearing like the quote, retweet, repost, or whatever, or the replies. Well, the quotes seem to be more the ones you pay attention to because I think the replies tend to agree with that. Maybe I'm just thinking more like Elon Musk, Twitter, like the replies are just like so many Twitter blue or ex premium people just like sucking his dick online in terms of what he says about this and that. And then there's like the I think just streamer. I don't know. I heard his name before, but Doctor Disrespect. And I think after making a fuss, like he lost. an opportunity, kind of like a sponsorship with the game, right, to help promote the game and stuff like that, or get a promotion copy of it. But like people who get so worked up about pronouns, like I really don't get it. And I'm not sure if it's like doing a bit just to get attention. I heard the term dog whistle. I'm not quite sure what that means per se. But like, if these people really mean it, then they're like fucking idiots. Like, 'cause number one, everybody uses pronouns. Like, there's that Schoolhouse Rock like song about it. Like, everyone uses pronouns. Like, he, she, they, them, whatever. I think it's just more like this more, and I use the term woke, which I feel like a lot of people try to use that to be dismissive about it, but it's just mostly being considerate to acknowledge people, a group of people, whatever. It's a way to be more respectful, and it doesn't hurt anyone. It doesn't like ruin the kids or make your day worse or ruin the experience for you for playing this game just because you see pronouns again, which everyone uses. Even God and Jesus Christ himself uses pronouns. They just like stating the preferred ones, especially when people, I think a lot with like people who are non-binary or gender fluid and stuff like that. I don't know too much myself in my personal experience, like in terms of they, them, and all that, but it just makes no sense to me. Like I think like the big deal is that they have to acknowledge that a certain group of people exists, and I mean, we this tiny little brains can comprehend it, but it's like it's even like doing it in a mocking way or in jest. Like this, an audience that are like agreeing, it's feeding the hate and all that. Although one funny thing, I just saw a post before recording that I guess Starfield has over 6 million players now, so part of it's kind of like signal boosting and all that. And even these people who get banned out here about pronouns, like if you call them the wrong pronoun, like they're gonna get pissed off. Like if you call this if you refer to Doctor Disrespect as he or her, I'm sure that's gonna make them upset. So like, I really don't get being triggered. Maybe these people are just like big stupid babies and can't comprehend anything besides a Call of Duty match or anything like that. But yeah, it is. I guess it is really annoying to hear about in the first place, and that regardless of how you talk about it in terms of disliking it or being a problem or games being woke, people gonna like feed off that, and it's gonna feed into hate, whether that's your intention or not. And then the day you just look stupid, and I see a lot of people like mocking them, and I think it's definitely well deserved. And yeah, I really don't get it. And I think also people, I mean, from that side, try to push this narrative that like, oh, because of like pronouns and all that, you have to like walk on eggshells, and you can get canceled for being transphobic or whatever. And I mean, that's definitely a thing. Like, don't be a douche, don't be a dick, don't be a wanker. Uh, in terms of other groups of people, where it's different races, different sexualities, different genders, different gender identities. Like, be respectful. That is really not that hard to be respectful for people who are just trying to exist, who are just trying to be themselves, versus people who are being complete assholes. I think for your disrespect, I can't respect him. But where I was going with that is like I never really hear too much of like someone who has specific preferred pronouns get upset about it initially. Like if someone like misgenders them on an honest mistake, like, oh no, these are my preferred pronouns. I'm not gonna like cancel you or chase after you with a torch and pitchfork if you don't get the gender right on the first the pronouns right on the first try. I think it's the people who like, okay, they made the clear what their preferred pronoun is, and you still not using them intentionally, like, oh, I transitioned my pronouns to she, her, and then, oh, he, or you're a guy, kind of stuff like that, kind of dismissing who they are, who their identity is. So it gets really frustrating when you hear this and that. Okay, and next thing I wanted to talk about is a term I heard. And some of them been kind of like getting those dumb articles or whatever on social media. But the idea of quiet quitting, I'm not quite sure what the actual definition is. Like, I think part of it's like not working as much and even like eventually like leave a company and quit a job and do something better. And I do have like some mixed feelings about it because I think a lot of it has to do with people being paid like minimum wage or not be paying enough for the job they do, which I definitely agree with. And it's kind of funny sometimes. Like I like that meme. Um, I think it's like the yes no girl or something like that. Like quiet quitting, like acting your wage. You go, yeah, because I think that's like a point of thing. Like when you feel like uh, you're not paid enough, and I'd say I'm fortunate enough that I'm not like working bare minimum wage. Especially the federal minimum wage hasn't changed in like over a decade, which that's something I feel strongly about. Like definitely like increase it. And a lot of states do, so it just depends where you live in the U.S. But I just feel like it's important to think about in terms of uh, workplace and your job and stuff like that because I know it can be really unmotivating. And I think a lot of it has to do with maybe management. It's like a touchy subject as much as I wanted to talk about it, but yeah, I think I've seen some articles like one of those listicle articles and stuff like that, but even said like some funny things about like someone would quit and then they're so quick to get rid of his email account, but the email account was tied to 3 years worth of calendar events, like oops, or someone who quit and then realized, hey, the company was still using his old Dropbox for like social media posts, and then he kind of like delete that, like a screw you, like when he like kind of had a bad falling out with a job. So I think quiet quitting to me is like having the falling out before you actually quit, where they're like I think some examples too, like draining your PTO, your paid time off before you quit your job, because some companies like, oh, you didn't use it, so you lose it since you're no longer with the company. Some actually pay out, but I think like the idea acting your wage is definitely something that's resonates with me, stuff like that. And even some funny stuff too, like someone was again, it's like posts on the internet, so you don't know how true it is, but with like somebody quit the job and then they still on payroll for like months afterwards. And then you could I don't know, like you can just like look up like quiet quitting or horrible bosses and stuff like that. Like some bosses that's so demanding, or like if you don't show up on your day off to cover for somebody, then it's like you don't care, and then that you quit. But like, your days off are your days off and shit like that. I feel like sometimes I don't want to get too detailed about my job and where I work at and stuff like that. But sometimes you just feel like if you care too much, um, it just drains you when you see that going nowhere, especially like management not doing anything in terms of like feedback when like this process can be done a lot better, or in some unfortunate cases like okay, this can be done to make things safer. It also depends on the job title or the job environment, uh, all that. Because sometimes I almost have to tell myself like it's better for me not to give a shit on certain aspects, but I also like to think it's not like 100% true that I have a good work ethic. Just because it's sometimes like not always like a workaholic or anything like that. Like I feel like it's not a good mentality to feel like, oh, the work's gonna like fall apart if I'm not there to do my job. But that kind of depends. Like if you're a smaller business and stuff like that, it definitely play a more vital role. But if you're like entry level, then it almost like doesn't really matter. But I also think it does help to do a good job, at least care about the quality of work you're doing. Just because I think this and that just kind of makes the day go fly by a lot quicker. And sometimes you get unmotivated too when you see like people just like slacking off or talking about this and that. Even like higher management, it almost feels like high management is doing less. Even though they probably have like more responsibilities and whatever bullshit they have to deal with or whatever, but it kind of feels like in terms of labor they're taking it a lot easier. But I don't see the whole story, all sides of the story to it. But And I think quiet quitting, it feels like it's one of those buzz words used in articles and stuff like that. But I think there's a lot of truth to it that, especially with pay and benefits, respect, and it's like stuff like, oh, the job requires a mandatory overtime, or they'll give house you if you don't come in on your day off, or work outside of business hours and stuff like that. Like, I'm glad I'm not in that situation where like my boss would like call me or text me and stuff like that. Or I don't know, you just gotta look at those articles about like usually like the horrible bosses ones, like quiet quitting. England is like a buzzword as well. But yeah, active wage is definitely is like a mantra when it comes to that. And I get like companies, I was gonna say like I don't can't just like pay everyone like huge salaries, but all these companies like it seemed I think it was a post on X that it was about the minimum wage, but it talked like how much like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk make and stuff like that. That it's crazy that how much money they make within like from 10 years ago to last year jumped so high, but federal minimum wage is still the same. So yeah, it's like it'll be different situations, like especially with like small businesses and all that. Sometimes you can't afford, especially if it's like the economy can really affect how the business thrives or even survives. So it almost becomes like an unfortunate place in a society or economy, whatever you want to call it, that you might have to just like focus attention for big companies in terms of employment because you have the job security and all that. And if there's like some mess up things, you can always transfer. Sometimes looking for a different job isn't too hard. So it's almost like, hey, support big business because it's easier to have the job security and all that. But yeah, I think it is kind of like a trend now that I don't know, I always feel like how many people get like this crazy like six-figure jobs? Like I feel like they should have taught that in school, but it's not gonna teach that in public school. But yeah, I think that's a good idea just to at least talk about or think about in terms of where you're at with your job. Is it going anywhere? Are you being paid what you're worth? Are your efforts acknowledged or whatever? I don't want to do like a huge TED talk about it, but something that's been kind of like going through those articles and reading this and that about like uh, horrible, maybe even toxic workplaces and bosses and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like, hey, don't get overly stressed when it's not going to really mean anything in terms of your role with the company and your job title and all that. So act your wage and yeah. So next thing I want to talk about is I really saw the movie Bros just because it had a free trial for Amazon Prime and was free on that. And I actually enjoyed it. And I know it had some, it came out a few years ago, but I know it had some weird marketing in a sense that it didn't do well. It pretty much bombed an audience for like an LGBT film and all that. Because I saw like some criticism with the marketing. It's like almost kind of like alienated the straight audience, saying like this movie's just gays and stuff like that. And even the gays didn't really come out to see it, but I enjoyed it. I like it because it has a lot more comedy. It feels a little bit more relatable. I say this before on like older podcasts, again, who's listening, but I just really get bored and hate other big mainstream LGBT movies because I just find them very boring. Like a much older one is like Brokeback Mountain, but the one from a few years ago, Call Me by Your Name, especially that one because like, oh, I heard some buzz about that, and like, okay, I'll see that. But I got so bored of it. Like, it's like it was disappointing to me because I feel like at least with the bigger like, I'm not sure if it's like tear jerking or trying to be like an Oscar nominated winning film, but it's like all about the struggle and like identity and with sexual orientation. Like it's always like the same plot. Like I've been like a straight person and now, oh, I'm gay or have these gay thoughts or like, oh, maybe I'm actually gay and they struggle with that. Like, Call Me by Your Name. Uh, I think the only thing I really remember about it is like fucking a peach and that the kid's dad and him almost banged the same guy. And I really forgot about Brokeback Mountain. Like, I just know it's like sappy. And I think also with a lot of it, it has like straight actors like being gay and all that. But Bros I like a lot. I think they had a lot of like LGBT cast. and all that. And yeah, I feel like again it made it relatable. They had some good humor to it. I wouldn't say like it's the best Oscar movie, but sometimes I get really bored with like the quote unquote Oscar movies and all that in terms of like Academy Award winning for Best Actor Screenplay. Like just make an entertaining movie and all that. So I kind of wish, although I don't dig too much into movies, besides like what's obvious in terms of what's trending or what's happening, all that. But I like that movie a lot. Some things that kind of like annoyed me a little bit about the movie, but it was just like plot stuff. Like there was a part we just talk about, oh, is one of them trying to make a open up a museum that's focused on LGBT, which I thought was a really cool story aspect of it. And like, oh, we got to raise money. Go, oh, yeah, this is paid by parade. We got to do that. I have to do this, and then they don't show it. They can like skip past it. And then there was even a point like he's meeting his boyfriend's parents, and his mom was a teacher, and he talked about like how soon kids should be learning about LGBT because he talks about like the museum and stuff like that. And it's like the annoying like egging each other on, like, okay, leave it, but wait, what if talk about that? And he like gives an example that when he was like a teenager, preteen, like his parents took him to a play where they had like a gay orgy scene. Although it's like stage play, the way it is described like, hey, if you I do make a point about like when it's too young to teach kids about these kind of things like LGBT. Like, don't give that example of seeing a gay orgy in a play. So, but I thought it was pretty good. Like, I think it wasn't too much of a try hard for better or for worse. Had some good laughs, but I would like to hear some more recommendation, like some LGBT movies that aren't just happy, like, oh, I'm depressed, like, oh, I'm gay, I'm struggling because I'm confronting my identity. And it's a struggle because I'm all alone or not. Although would have to say that one of my favorite movies that kind of has those tones is one called Prayers for Bobby, which I believe was like a Lifetime original movie, and it was based on a true story too about like a, uh, a teenager, and especially with a really religious background and religious parents, and had that struggle. So I think that makes a lot better sense, or at least a better narrative and all that. But just me kind of yammering on about this or that. But I think that'll do it for this podcast for this week. I may take a break in terms of podcasts, just because a lot of times I'm always struggling to find stuff to talk about that's relevant, or just what I feel like talking about to fill in time. And also, like, let me know if anyone cares about this, but um, I don't know, like, sometimes I have like a loose idea of what I want to talk about, but it's pretty much off the cuff. Like, obviously, if you listen, I'm not the best with my words. Sometimes I am. It just depends. I think when I do more focused stuff, like shorts and game reviews and game commentaries, which I got to work on more. But yeah, and then yeah, to wrap things up, and again, the best way to support me in a channel is to like, comment, and subscribe. YouTube, X, or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and Twitch. I would like some more attention to Twitch channel. Probably should say that earlier in the podcast, but I would like to see more on Twitch just because I enjoy live streaming. Just we're playing games and like getting my thoughts out as I'm playing along. But it would be nice if there's more to it. Like, not to say it's all about success and numbers and views and followers, but I would like to see a little bit more. But at the end of the day, I'm playing games. I'm having fun, and it is what it is. But it could be more. It could be a lot less. I'm enjoying it. So, and it gets me some practice with talking to a microphone, which maybe helps in other aspects of my life. But again, it is what it is. So thanks so much for listening, and y'all take care and have a good rest of your day. Bye.